Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back again to another episode of The Last Christian. This is our Bible teaching session that we're into today. However, we just came back from the conference, so we're going to touch on a little of the things we've done over there. And JD and I went to hear the Watchman out in Dallas, and we had a blast. And we also looked at the eclipse, as you could probably tell from the picture behind me. So that was a lot of fun. We're going to talk a little bit about that in the presentation I did there. We gave you a teaser about what it was going to be. Now I'm going to get into a little bit more of what it was. So maybe you want to grab a copy of the video. It's going to be a lot of fun. So JD, come on in. Tell everybody how everything went at the conference.
Oh, it was awesome. The only bad part about it, David, is I lost my voice. You know, I mean, I interviewed so many of the speakers and, some of the people that were putting together some really nice exhibits there. It was just a great time. It was wonderful Christian fellowship. Loved it.
Okay.
Loved every minute of it. And I want to give special credit here to Mr. Mike Kerr as well, who put everything together. And it was a challenge for him. I won't go into any detail on that, but he was up against the challenge too. And for him to even be there was a blessing for all of us. But anyway, David, I'm looking forward to a teaching. Get back to business here on a Thursday evening. So I'm going to just turn you loose with it, and we'll go from there.
So,
all right.
Yeah, to get everyone else. I mean, we can talk for a while. It was fun, but to get everyone else, just go ahead to hearthewatchman.com. You can actually get the videos that are online. We were talking about the live stream. Well, they're all recorded, so you can still get them if you want.
Amen.
But we wanted to touch on today some really cool stuff. We just had the eclipse, and there's people on both sides of this whole story, and I think it's both. It's extreme on both ends, just like Christians do. You know, you're either yay, I'm rapture and we're leaving tomorrow, or oh my God, no, it's post and we're never going to get out of here. We're all going to, be beat up by the Antichrist. So again, it's somewhere in the middle, and it's both and yeah, we may get out of here today.
Right.
That's a definite possibility, but we may be here for another 50 years. Okay.
Right.
That's really up to the Lord, and he does that on purpose. I'm ready for today, but I'm also ready for 50 years. What about you, JD?
I'm with you 100% on that, David, except I don't think it's going to be 50 years. I'm just, I'll go out on a limb. It's going to be quicker than that.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I've been watching this for 50 years, and I think the birth pains are increasing tremendously.
Amen.
But, along those lines, you remember that guy that wrote It Is Well With My Soul?
Yes.
Yeah, so I forgot his name off the top of my head. But
me too.
What happened is he lost a couple of kids and almost lost his wife in the ocean because they were on a ship coming back from America to England, but they were working in Chicago because they had a mission, and then he lost, and his wife just sent a note. I'm the only survivor. They only can telegraph back then.
Wow.
Kids gone, only one left, something like that. And then he was distraught. But he was so distraught. They were such good, strong Christians that he said, "It is well with my soul."
Yeah.
And that's where you get, the sea billows roll. He's talking about the loss of his children and almost his wife. And then his daughter that he had after that event actually grew up and had a big ministry. I think she lived to like 90.
Wow.
But here's the deal. This was my point. He did that, and then after this event, he went and moved to Jerusalem because he believed the rapture was any day, and he wanted to be in Jerusalem when Jesus came back to capture it. And they had every reason to believe it was back then as well. Okay?
Now, was it John or was it Paul that thought that the rapture was going to happen in his lifetime?
Yeah, Paul. Paul said, "Hey, listen, he was waiting for it right now," and he taught everybody that. He said, "Be ready." Yeah, and even Corinthians is like, someone wrote us a letter and said it happened already, and it's like, no, didn't happen yet. You're still here. So, but that is by design. The difference today is that there are signs.
Mm-hmm.
The Israel has been in the land again. We see exactly all the things that could not have happened before actually are happening, like the entire world seeing him coming at once.
Right.
That couldn't happen before. How could one leader of the world keep everybody in the world from buying and selling?
Yeah.
Well, that's easy. I mean, we see that today. Everything's electronic, digital currency. Even if you think your American dollar is, real money, it's not. It's still digital currency because you use your credit card in the bank.
Right.
It's all the same thing. What's a cool note, JD, is Laura's been showing me some things. There's a hexagonal structure, hexatic. I forget how that's going too. It's been a rough weekend.
Yeah,
but it's a base 6. We have a base 10 numeric system. Everything goes in tens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. But there's a 6 base as well, sectagonal, something like that. Now, when I come back, I'll write it in the notes when I figure it out.
Okay.
So basically it bases in 6 and in 60 and in 600. Okay. It's a much more efficient numerical system. The Babylonians used it. They used it when they did any of the timing pieces that they had. When they did geometry, everything is 60 degrees, right? And then 360 degrees was all the way around. And everything was a 6 base. We got 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute. Everything is a 6 base because it's better. It's divisible by 2 and 3 and 1, whereas 10 is divisible by 2 and 5. And so it just makes better for better computing and better stuff like that. Okay. But we don't think like that. That was a Babylonian structure. So when the Lord was saying, hey, you got this 6 base, I think, wow, the computers, AI, with a adiabatic quantum computer would have that same base in the computer code, and cryptocurrency kind of uses that because the security goes beyond what anybody can hack.
I don't get crypto. I don't understand it. I'm scared.
Well, it's pretty much the same as your bank account at this point. Hey, it's just numbers in a pay. Hey, you have $1,000. Oh,
based on what though? I mean, what is it based on?
Bitcoin, you can spend that.
What's it based on though? I don't get it. I mean, they just make it
based
up
on supply and demand, just like your dollar in your pocket.
I don't have. I got $1 in my pocket. You know that. You saw it.
Well, that dollar used to buy you a bunch of things, and now it doesn't. But that's the idea. It's just supply and demand, which is why they went to fiat currency to begin with, because they knew, let's just keep all the gold and the silver and just tell everybody we have it and give them this paper money, and the joke's on them. So we basically got paid, but that's fiat currency. It's the same idea. It's just in a digital form instead of a paper form. Just like your banking system today. I can Zelle you money. It's just I'm Zelling you some numbers. It's not real money. Right. That's all it is.
Okay.
That's my sidebar for today.
Okay. All right.
My rabbit hole.
There you go.
All right. Well, anyway, if I get my brain back, we'll talk about other things.
Well, I wish mine would come back on.
That's how good it was. I literally just got back a couple hours ago home, so I even got jet lag a little bit. So,
I can imagine.
But it's all good. Praise God. So we went into Genesis 1:14 like we did last week when I gave you the wrong verse. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. So we were able to touch on the surface of this in talking about the gospel being written in the stars. So in the teaching on generational contracts, the whole idea of the Bible being a contract written from before the foundation of the world, it is. So we saw verses where it talks about that. Hey, am I not written in your book? Right? So let's pull that one up. Okay. Come on, mister. Where did it go? There it is.
Okay, where are we going?
My computer's mad at me. He's like, where you been? You left me for a week. I'm not doing anything.
Where are we
So,
going, David? Book and chapter.
let me see. Let's do Psalm 19, 1
Okay.
through 6 again.
Okay. Okay. I got it.
Okay. And then Psalm 19, 1 through 6, the Psalm of David. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. So that declare is the word safar, literally means he wrote it down.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote down the contract before the world began.
Right.
And
That was that's mind blowing. Yeah.
And so, and the word, and it says, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. That word nagad is to explain.
Right.
So it literally says that the heavens inscribe. So the heavens were written down, all of his handiwork, right? The glory of God.
Mm-hmm.
And the firmament explains it.
Ah, okay. Now, real quick, I'm going to go ahead and put this up here, David. This is your site, okay? And the reason I'm doing that is because David gave me a preview of what he was going to speak at the conference, like the night before. And I think you went for like an hour or maybe just a little bit over, and I got the shorter version, 30, 35 minutes, something like that. But the reason I'm bringing this up here is because you can get a copy. David will tell you how that you can get a copy of his presentation, because it's awesome. I mean, it's something that I bet you nobody's ever seen before. If I'll let you explain it, David. You'll do a heck of a lot better than me.
Yeah, it's so I was able to put everything into a cohesive form so you can understand where it goes. We gleaned from a lot. There's plenty of good writers ahead of me. E.W. Bullinger wrote Witness of the Stars. There was Joseph Seiss, wrote Gospel in the Stars. There's a handful of people along the way. Now, those two guys were in the 1800s, so there's some information that was been discovered since then to update things. I wouldn't say had to correct them, but update them, because there's ancient Hebrew names for stars that we're finding out.
Okay.
As opposed to the ones I have, like Hercules isn't Hercules. The Greeks took the mighty man and made him Hercules, but he wasn't Hercules.
Okay. Gotcha.
So they kind of transposed them to try and steal them. And then we're going to see that it was written even before the foundation of the world, like in Exodus 32:32. Yet now, if you will forgive their sin, if not, blot me, I pray, out of thy book. So Moses is talking. He says, please forgive the Israelites. And if you have to, take my name out of the book of life that he had. But it was his book that thou hast written. Okay, that's what he's talking about. And now here he's talking before he actually wrote it. Clearly. So the event took place before that, because he couldn't have written it down other than that. So where did he write it before that?
Obviously, now I know.
Yeah, Moses wrote this. No, Moses is writing now about the event that happened before, and the event happened before. It says it was already written. Well, what book has he written? Well, this is the contract that was written in the stars.
Yeah, contract is something, it took me a bit to understand that. But once you really start breaking it down, it really is a contract. It really is. I mean, I had never really thought about it in those terms until, the two of us started talking about it. But it's definitely a contract, without a doubt.
And there's terms and conditions. Everything has terms and conditions in it, and that's the only reason we have contracts, is because that's the way God did it to begin with.
Yeah, I agree.
And we don't understand that. And people try and separate it. And people say, like when you're dealing with creation, because we're in Genesis, so it says, creation. You believe in the science, or you believe in the Bible? Well, excuse me, the Bible is science. It's the correct science.
Right.
But that's what the devil does. He tries to separate it, and he plays that card, and people fall into it. You're playing a religion. Well, explain to me, creation without using the Bible. Like, what are you, an idiot? Explain evolution without using science terms.
Right.
Dumb. That's just dumb. That is the argument, if you would. The
All they're
science was
doing
written in the
is
Bible long before everything.
all they're doing is proving it right. The more they dig and the more they try, the more they prove it right. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's like saying, oh, you think you can beat me at baseball? Try doing it without a bat and a ball.
There you go.
Stop. So, what was this book that he had written? That's the question. Everything was written in the stars.
Mm-hmm.
Psalm 56:8. Thou tellest my wanderings and put my tears in thy bottle. Are they not in thy book? Okay. So check that out. Your father has a bottle just to remember your tears. And he writes a note on every single one of them.
Oh, wow.
Before the foundation of the world.
Wow.
That's how much he loves you.
That's incredible. Here's another one of those verses that I've read a bunch of times, and here's the bam. Okay.
It's like,
all right.
So think of that.
Yeah.
Every last tear that you cried, he saved it in a jar and wrote a note on it. And how much he loves you and wants to comfort you through those tears.
Wow.
Wowzers. But that book was written. And this leads me to believe a lot of things that are kind of odd, but it just leads in this direction. Psalm 139:16 says, thine eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfect, and in thy book all my members were written, which in continuance were fashioned, and as yet there were none of them. That's a science term.
I like that part where it says being yet unformed.
Being yet unformed.
Yeah.
You know why? Because your DNA is a code. It's a computer code.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So people say, oh, you're going to what if I, cut you up in little pieces and throw you in the ocean and all sorts of different sharks eat you? How's God going to rapture you then? It's DNA. It's code. It's DNA code. So you can't get rid of it. It's like a computer program. You can bust my laptop to pieces, but I'll just install the program on another computer and there it is.
Yeah.
I'll take my Word file and I'll put it on another computer and there it is. Exactly the same as it was. That's what God's going to do. He's going to take your DNA code and just put it in, and now we'll have a perfect universe, basically. And so, okay, now let's put your DNA code on this much more improved computer, which is a new time-space continuum that he has, and because that's what it is. It's a DNA code, and that's exactly what he says right here. There's DNA coding right in here.
Well, I got to bust in on this one real quick because you mentioned you can sharks and all that stuff. What jumped in my mind was people attempting to hide from God through the act of cremation at their death, and I have heard that many times, and that's not going to work either, is it, David?
No, it's because it's your DNA code,
right?
So it's just going to come back. Now, the New American says, your eyes have seen my unformed substance. In your book were all written the days that were ordained for me, when as yet there was none of them. So it's a code. He wrote it in a book. Okay, this is 3.2 billion letters that he wrote in your book that says how big your toes are going to be, you're going to have, and if you're going to be snarky, whatever.
Yep.
And he wrote that. He designed you on purpose in the book. So not only is he put all the stars up there, and on day 4, it literally says, oh, he made the stars also.
Yeah. Just afterthought, basically. I mean, it wasn't, but, that's kind of how it comes across.
So all these trillions of stars, all of them named by God before he wrote anything else down. Okay. All told Adam and Seth and all those guys that said, this is the stars. And now, when you go in order of their brightness and name them, it'll tell you what each constellation means. And then you're going to teach your kids this. And here, I put it all in the stars so you wouldn't forget it.
Mm-hmm.
And that, he says, oh, yeah, he made the stars also. Just to tell how he made you. How much more glorious is the creation of you, a sentient, living, loving being that can love him back, than all the trillions of stars.
Amen. Amen. Just a bunch of bright
mind-blowing.
Suns. Yeah, unreal.
You know, you could look through a straw and literally see over 10,000 galaxies in space just by looking through a straw.
Wow.
Where did they come from?
Well, I know that when I was going, when you were showing me your presentation the night before, you have all these stars laid out, and you kind of connect everything together, and Anyway, I wanted to mention it again because I really think people ought to get that. I really do, because it's an eye-opening deal, and it really got to me, and I know that if you're interested in prophecy, if you're interested in the Bible, you're interested in God, you're interested in knowing where you came from, it's going to be worth your time. Trust me. Yeah.
So you can get the video and whatnot at hearthewatchmen.com, hearthewatchmen.com. You can order all the videos from all the presentations, and mine's in there. If you use the term Last Christian, you'll actually get $10 off. But if you email me at TheHiddenDay at protonmail.com, that's TheHiddenDay at protonmail.com. I'll send you the actual files that we use for it, so you can follow along with the video presentation if you'd like.
Yeah, and that's awesome.
Yeah, and with each, there are constellations. So they're laid out like this, JD. Basically, they all go in order. All right, and for just understanding purposes, there's 3 books, each having 4 chapters. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so you have the first book talks about him coming to Earth, and then there's the redemption, and then there's the consummation of his power at the end. And we'll talk about a little bit. We'll get into that deeper in the second half, but I'll give you a little teaser. So it literally lays it out. It's not just like random stuff. Oh, this means this and this means this, because you get some. I've seen some well-meaning Christians come up with some of the craziest nonsense out there, and they're using their own conjecture. I saw one, and I'm not gonna tell you who they are, and I actually saw a couple different things, and one of them is like, well, yeah, that's what it kind of means here in the stars. They say it means this, but I think I see it like this. Here's the crab, and the crab. Well, the crab lives underwater, so this one must be something about the flood. I'm like, are you smoking dope?
No, I would say, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you give it about 30 years of thought and come back when you got some real...
Yeah, and don't talk to me for that 30 years.
Now my impression, David, before meeting you and finding all this stuff out, I just assumed that God just threw these things, and it just so happened that some of them lined up and looked like the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper and all that kind of stuff. That was just accidental. That was how I really envisioned everything prior to getting my my seminary degree from you.
Yeah, well, thanks. Now, think of that. That is what the devil wants you to think. That, it just all exploded and it's just there. And everybody just said, let's connect the dots and make these things.
Right.
And then you got the pagan side that said, oh, no, these are aliens telling us this is your horoscope. So much bastardization, shall I say.
And misinformation.
True.
Yeah.
That it's you really have to dig in and unwind it all.
Yeah.
Because wicked means to twist, so it's wicked because they twisted it.
Yeah.
So we got to go in and untwist it, because remember, Satan can't create anything new. He can only twist what God has made.
Right.
So I found so much truth with just that one little thing, JD. The one little idea is that everything has a foundation in truth. You just have to untwist it.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah.
Oh, horoscopes, the stars. Oh, okay. Well, no, I don't think it's about me. Let's untwist it. Oh, God
Mm.
wrote it, and it's all about him. Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
And it's literally with everything. But
Which makes a
what
lot
we
more
do as
sense.
Christians, which the devil likes this as much too. He don't care if you think you caught him. Oh, that's astrology. I'm not going to talk about that. Ha ha
Mm.
ha. He's like, great,
Yeah.
because then you won't understand that God wrote this in the stars beforehand. But that's what he wants you to believe, that they were just randomly thrown out there. That's the Big Bang.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what we need to fully understand, it says, is for signs, for seasons, for days and years, and the Moedim is in there. Literally placed each one, and he calls them all by name.
That's the incredible part. Yeah. And you
Name,
think about it. I mean, I
name
don't.
each and every one of them.
How do you even number them? I mean, and God
Right?
said that himself, but, I don't even, I would be doing him a disservice to say there's billions of them because there's billions of,
There's billions of galaxies full of billions of stars.
Exactly, right. Oh,
So,
man. Yeah.
each. And so that's where we're at. He's trying to steal it. He's trying to take it, and that if he can give the idea that they're just random out there, that's fine. But it's extremely clear that everything all through history points to people looking at the stars for times. All right. Whether it's a time of the day. If you're out at night, you can know what time it is at night just by where the stars are, because the earth rotates. You can see, if this is here, it goes around the North Star. So you can tell it's literally like that little clock. But then there's also the wandering stars, planetas, planets, and they also are another clock that goes around. Then there's this clock. And it's literally, that's how the Magi knew that Jesus was coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the clock came around. Oh, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's this. It's time for him to come.
Yeah, because, in the Bible, it makes it sound like, they just kind of looked at, or the way I understood it. It's not what the Bible says. Let me back that up. The way I understood it was they looked up, they saw this star over, and we're going that way. And that's it. I mean, nothing more than that. It didn't go any deeper than that. And it goes a lot deeper than that. So, all right. Well, David, we're almost out of time for the first half of the show, so I'm going to wind us down. And then in the second half, David's really going to give us a teaching. Okay, I kind of held him up on this. That's, as usual, it's my big mouth holding us up. So anyway, we'll be back after a break with the second half of the show. Well, I know you guys are going to want to hang in there with us. And so, anyway, don't let the short amount of time we're gone bother you. We'll be right back.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Julia Chapman. Iran is primed to launch significant missile or drone strikes against Israeli government and military facilities, according to US President Joe Biden. He gave the warning at a press conference alongside Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida at the White House, where Benji Heyer reports.
President Biden insists the United States will do whatever it can to protect its ally.
As I told Prime Minister Netanyahu, our commitment to Israel's security against these threats from Iran and its proxies is ironclad.
Such a move by the Islamic Republic or its aligned militia groups in the region would likely escalate the ongoing Middle East conflict, Israel's vowing to fire back at Iranian soil if hit. Just hours before Joe Biden's statement, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei reiterated his promise to retaliate following a deadly blast on Iran's consulate in the Syrian capital of Damascus last week. It killed senior Iranian military officials, and Iran blames Israel for the attack. Benji Heyer, Washington.
Ukraine's parliament has passed a controversial mobilization bill. It comes as a renewed Russian offensive is expected in the coming months. Megumi Lim reports from Kyiv.
The mobilization bill was passed in the final reading with a majority of 238 votes after months of deliberations. The legislation still has to be signed by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky before it officially becomes law. The full text of the legislation has not yet been published, but the amendments would likely include specific punishments for men evading draft and the introduction of basic military service for Ukrainians within a certain age group. One of the more contentious aspects of the bill was that it set no limits for the length of service for mobilized soldiers. During the days leading up to the vote, President Zelensky signed into law 3 other measures relating to mobilization, including lowering the draft eligibility age from 27 to 25. Megumi Lim in Kyiv.
Leaders of South Korea's ruling People Power Party are stepping down following a massive defeat in the country's parliamentary elections. The opposition Democratic Party won 185 of 300 contested seats in what experts call a blow to the administration of President Yoon Suk-yeol. Chris Gilbert reports.
This is a significant setback for the PPP, for Yoon Suk-yeol's party. He is now set to become the first ever South Korean president to do a 5-year term with no party control over the National Assembly at all. And so that effectively, as experts say, makes him a lame duck for the rest of the 3 years of his term.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Hey, everybody. We are back for the second half. And my brain is still holding out, so that's pretty good. JD, how's your brain doing?
Oh, man, David, like I was telling you during the quick break there, I'm just beat. I'm exhausted mentally, physically. I mean,
That's when you know you did a good job.
It's just the greatest thing in the world. It was such a marvelous, marvelous conference. I mean, I wouldn't have missed that for the world. That was awesome.
Cool. All right, so let's do this. I promise you we'd get into just a basic outline of the books and in order that they were written in the stars. Now, again, along with the twisting, they always twist the seasons too. The worldly idea of the zodiac would be to start in the spring when it really starts in the fall with Virgo. And there's a reason for that, because they didn't want you to understand that it started with the seed of the woman. So they started in the middle and kind of just messed up the things along the way and just made it confusing. But they couldn't just make up new constellations because they've been there. It's not like you can do it.
Right.
Hey, let's just connect the dots in different ways and I can make a Pokemon over here or whatever. So they didn't want to do that. But it actually starts with the seed of the woman, which would be Virgo. Now, here's a little thought that I really want to look into. I haven't looked into it yet. There are some who would surmise and purport that it was Joseph who aligned the pyramids and the Sphinx and stuff over in Egypt, because he was there and he was because he was a son of Abraham. He was well versed in the stars. And that line, because Abraham knew what it was. They all knew what it was, basically. But he was taught by God, and God said, "Hey, look at the stars." And when God told Abraham to look at the stars, and said, in English we have can you number the stars? And we think it means to count them. But in Hebrew, it really means, can you enumerate these particular stars that I have right here? And there is really good reason to believe that he was actually looking in what we call cancer today, and it's not cancer like the sickness, and it's not a crab. That's just some of the corruption that came down, but it's cancer, and it essentially means a nice inn or a stall that you can gather people. So this is the great gathering of his people. And I guess what a crab,
David, I got to jump. I got to jump in here. I'm really sorry, but
surprise.
All this crab stuff, and I've seen the picture. We looked at it together when we were in a hotel, and couldn't that? Please don't yell at me. Couldn't that possibly be Jesus with his hands out, bringing people in? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, some people surmise that that's the idea of the crab, that all those arms are gathering everybody underneath.
Yeah.
But it's still a nasty, crab. That's not kosher.
Okay. It was just a thought. Like I said, it's crazy. Okay, go ahead.
How can you even eat those things? It's disgusting. But anyway. The point is, it was a gathering inn, like an inn, not even just a pen. It was like a building almost for the great gathering, or a tabernacle, if you would. And that's what it's right in, when we see the layout of the books, you'll see it's right there. It's in that portion of the story where he's doing the great gathering.
Mm-hmm.
So he told Abraham to look and enumerate, and there's something in right smack in the middle of what we know as Cancer today in the crab, and they call it the beehive because it's this cluster of stars in the middle that has so many stars they don't even know how to number them.
Yeah.
Just in the center of there.
Yeah.
So there's really good reason because of the structure of the language. He's saying, look up at this, and you know how the story goes, and you know the gathering, and now look in the gathering and enumerate all of those. And it just points to there'll be a great multitude from every race, language, nation, and tongue that no man can number in Revelation chapter 7.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
It's just that prophecy spoken with Abraham way before the book of Revelation where John wrote it down. But it's all the same story all the way along. So he's telling him we're going to have a great gathering, and these are all going to be how many offspring you have. Not the idea that I always had, well, look at all these stars and how can we possibly number them? It was specifically pointed to the one constellation of the gathering that you still can't even number just that one section of it.
Just that one? Oh, good grief. Yeah.
It's that one little section you can't even number, and you could look at it like this. So that's just really interesting to me how when we start to understand this and then unwind, we see that he told Abraham, your offspring will be as the sand of the sea. Well, that's Israel because they're on the earth ruling with him. Your offspring, and then he turns around and says, oh yeah, they'll be like the stars too. So we're both seeds of Abraham, but Israel is one seed, basically, and then the other, but it's all comes back to Abraham, which is one seed, two different folds.
Right.
And that's what he says, not seeds, but seed. But they're two different people groups.
Yeah.
And that would be the church and Israel.
Right.
And we see that portrayed all throughout the Matzerath. Okay, not mozzarella, Matzerath.
Okay.
So, and let's just jump into this. We really don't have time to dig into the deep part of it, but basically, the first book is called The Sufferings of Christ. So for the first 4 chapters, we're going to see how Christ is suffering. So first he has to come. Chapter 1 is the prophecy of the promised seed of the woman. All right, and I'm taking this from Bullinger's book, but this is kind of a layout and a structure that we use for everything. The seed of the woman. So you see Virgo, and the brightest star is the Spica, which is the seed.
Okay,
that means seed. And then there's the next one, just Shema, where Shemach. So my Hebrew, I got to get better on it, but basically it means branch.
Okay,
and he's the branch of Jesse.
Okay.
Out of Jesse and out of David, they'll spring a branch. So you see that in the Virgo. So the seed and the branch will come out of the virgin.
Okay.
And that has different things attached to it. So we see coma, the desired woman and desired child, and the woman holding him. So there's the virgin birth. You see centaur, which is a man with 2 natures, a sacrificial animal and a human. So we see the 2 natures of God. He's God, and he comes down as and the man as a sacrifice. And then there's Boates, and he's he cometh. Boates means he's to come. So here comes the king. Behold, he will come, and he'll be born of a virgin. So where have you heard that before?
Yeah.
Okay. So chapter 2, which would be Libra, that's the scale. So here, behold, this child is coming, and he's coming from a virgin, and then he's going to pay the price. So Libra's the scales, and the price is a deficient balance versus the price with covers on both sides of the scale. So it's a redeeming price, and it covers your sins at the same time.
Right.
And then we see, along with Libra, we see Crux, which is the cross. So that's what he endured. And we see Lupus, which is the victim slain. And we see Corona, which is a crown. So we see his story in there.
Yeah.
Okay. So we elaborate that in the presentation as well. And then chapter 3 is Scorpio, and that's the conflict that he has. So remember, this is the sufferings of Christ. He comes, and then we see that his atoning work is paying for us on the cross. And the conflict is this Scorpio. So we see Scorpions stinging him in the ankle or in the heel, right? But also he could step on him with his heel. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And we see serpent, and then Ophiuchus is the man grasping the serpent. So Ophiuchus, the mighty man, is wrestling the serpent. Good old story, right? And then there's the Hercules is the mighty man, and he's kneeling on one knee because his heel hurts. So he's down on one knee, but he's got his other foot on the head of the dragon. In there. So he's a mighty vanquisher, but they call him Hercules. It's like, it's not Hercules. This mighty is the it's the Redeemer's conflict. So this is Jesus fighting. He's fighting the serpent, and he wounded his heel, but he stepped on the scorpion. So it has this whole picture in there. And then the 4th chapter in book 1 is the Redeemer's triumph. So here's all his the sufferings, but now he triumphs in the last chapter of book 1. Sagittarius is the archer, again a dual-natured man with the archer, and he's got the basically coming to conquer, right? And then we see the lyra, which is a harp. All right, so now he's conquered. He came as conquering, and now we're singing praises to him because we got the harp. And then we have the ara, the altar, is a consuming fire prepared for the enemies. So now we see the triumph in there, and he comes for his enemies. And then we see Draco, the dragon, and he's cast down from heaven. So we elaborate on that in book 4. But all of that is, these are his sufferings. So we move to the second. You with me so far?
I am. Yeah. And everything that we went over in the hotel is coming back to me too, as you're talking. It's really good.
Okay, good. And this is all, and it's laid out in the presentation. Again, if you want to get it, just the HiddenDay at protonmail.com, just say conference presentation, because God wrote it. I didn't write it, so I'm not all about hey, I got my copyright because I got no, I didn't invent it. I'm just telling you what God said.
Right.
My gift is explaining. That's it.
Amen.
So the second book in the stars. So we saw the first 4 constellations up to Sagittarius, from Virgo to Sagittarius. Now we're going to see the next book, which is the next 4 constellations. And this one is called The Blessings Procured. So the second book, The Redeemed, and it's the result of the Redeemer's sufferings. So chapter 1 in there, so this is the Redeemed. This is talking about the Redeemed. First it was Christ coming. Now we're going to see all about who are these redeemed people. Right. All right, so chapter 1 is Capricornius is the fish goat, right? Or goat fish, whatever.
Goat fish, fish goat.
Right. Now, a fish always represents new life. Hey, they're going to be fishers of men and things like that. And then he fed them with the fish. So there's new life in there. And the goat is the sacrifice, the sacrificial goat. So that's why you see this goat fish in Capricorn. All right, it goes from the sacrifice to new life.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, so these are the redeemed people. We've been, now we're sacrificed. Now we're going to have new life. Because of his sacrifice, we're going to have new life. So there's this arrow, Sagitta. So Capricorn, and then we see the arrow of God sent forth in Sagitta, and that pierced the eagle, the smitten one. So the eagle is falling, and we all know what happens with the eagle. They shall rise again, right? But then we see another picture of rising with life, and that's the dolphin, Delphinus. So he jumps out of the water, and they're notorious for springing up to life, and and they jump out. So now we see the piercing arrow of God, the eagle's falling down, so he's dead, but then he springs back to life. Same idea with the goat fish. So here the goat is sacrificed, he's dead, and then he springs back to life. So we're redeemed now because of that.
Right.
I've been redeemed. And just like he lives, we shall live.
Right. Absolutely.
Because he lives. That one. All right. So chapter 2, book 2, chapter 2 is their blessings are insured. So these talk about the blessings. All right. So that's Aquarius. The water bearer. He's pouring out water. Look,
Yeah,
see, that's
yeah.
blessings. He's pouring out blessings upon us. How do I know? Because Pisces Australis is the fish that he's pouring it on. We're new life in the fish, and he's pouring water on us. That's a blessing, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so now he's pouring new life on it, and he's the water of life. And he even said to the, hey, you drink of my water, you never thirst again.
Right.
Ugh,
Right.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
And then the Pegasus is the winged horse, and the horse is always a supply, and the winged horse means your supply is coming very quickly.
Okay.
Okay, so we see that in Pegasus, and then the swan is Cygnus, and then the swan basically returns. So it's a big, beautiful thing. The swan has, when it looks out, it's like you can see the cross in it, but the blessings are returning because that's the idea of the swan. So the blessings are ensured in the constellation group of Aquarius.
Gotcha.
It's poured out, it's on the fish, it's coming quickly, and it will keep on coming like the swan.
Okay.
I don't know about you. I live by a couple of lakes, and the swans keep coming back.
Yeah, I got them all around
Go
me.
away, they come back.
Okay. Okay.
And you're like, "What are you doing here?" And it's the same ones. They're a couple. They're married.
Yeah.
And then they get really sad when one of them dies, and they're like, "Oh, I'm all by myself." But they keep coming back to the same spot every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. That's kind of the picture. The blessings are surely returning. Chapter 3, Book 2, Chapter 3 is their blessings in abeyance. That means they're on hold. Abeyance is basically they're on hold for a little while.
Okay.
So we were ensured these blessings. We were given these blessings, but as you and I know, these bodies really aren't new yet.
Right. Yeah.
Are they?
I sure hope not.
I hope this ain't the new one.
Yeah, for real. If so, I picked up the wrong package, that's for sure.
Yeah, can I return this? I think someone gave me the wrong package.
Yeah.
So the blessings in abeyance, the blessings are on hold. So they're procured and insured, but they're on hold for right now for a very specific reason, and that's Pisces, the fishes. Okay. And we see Pisces, they're kind of tied together. All right. But we see the idea of two fish groups. One is looking at the North Star, and the other one's looking at the ecliptic of wild and death. Just like Abraham was told to look at the stars for one group of people, and then look at the sand or the earth level for the other ones. So it's the same picture again. But they're bound to Cetus, the sea monster. So right now, the blessings are assured because they're fish, but they're kind of stuck. So we're holding Satan down because of the cords, but Satan's holding us down. They're in abeyance. They're on hold right now. That's the picture.
Okay.
That's the band or the cord that connects them. And then there's Andromeda just above that. Andromeda is basically a woman who's in chains. So it's the woman, symbolizing the bride of Christ, but right now she's in chains. And that's a picture of basically us at this point, saying, hey, the bride is here, but right now we're kind of stuck in these bodies. And that's what Paul says. Right now we see him dimly through a glass, but when we see him face to face, we'll understand all these things. So they're in abeyance, and he understood, I got a thorn in my flesh for now, where it's just on hold. And there's Cephas, the Redeemer, and that's the king, and you can see him coming to rule. Okay, so they're in abeyance, but the king is coming right now, and he's going to grab his bride, and that's in chapter 4. Their blessings consummated and enjoyed, and we see that in the constellation of Aries. So you see, we're following this story all the way through. It's not just random constellations; it's a story in order, in line with chapters and sections. It's pretty wild.
Well, this makes perfect sense, really, because they didn't have any when Noah was Noah. Adam and Eve and everybody that followed them. I mean, they didn't have any paper yet. They didn't have pens yet. They didn't have anything like that. So it makes perfect sense that God had to put it up in the stars, and then them being able to see it without all the lights of today. The interpretation part's easy from there.
Yep, pneumatics. So it's just picture languages, and even the letters were picture languages. I mean, we're just getting started. Each constellation has a letter attached to it.
Yeah,
that'll mess with your brain because we'll talk about that soon.
Yes, it will.
Now it's got each letter attached to it, and Now each tribe of Israel is there. I'm telling you, this is just scratching the surface.
If you're not sitting down, dude, you better do it now. Yeah.
So here we are. Now the blessings are coming. We see Aries, the ram or lamb, that depending on which version you use, but basically the sacrificial animal that was slain and is prepared for the victory. And we see this ram actually facing right towards the cords. So now he's going to break that cord, and we're going to be released from Satan's, abeyance cord here. Right. All right. And then that's where we see Cetus, the sea monster, or Leviathan. Okay. They call him Cetus, but it's really the Leviathan. And that's the one we're holding, and he's holding us down. So the ram comes in and busts those both apart. Gotcha. And then there's Perseus, and that means the breaker. And he is coming to break the head of everybody and deliver us.
Okay. Makes sense.
Okay, so he's delivering us from this Leviathan, and he's the ram. He's a picture of the ram coming in, and he's going to destroy the enemy, and now we're going to be free. Okay? So that's pretty cool. And then we see from there, we see Cassiopeia. Okay. Something like that in the Latin. But she is the bride.
Okay.
So
CBS.
So Aries is busting us free. He's busting the fish free from the Leviathan. Okay. Perseus is the breaker, delivering us. And then we see Cassiopeia, the enthroned woman. Okay. She's enthroned, and she's literally sitting right next to Cephas the king. So we see the king and the queen together at this point after he breaks him through. So these are our blessings now. Now, keep in mind, when we sit with the king, that would be indicative of us being raptured, would it not?
You would think, yeah.
Okay. So here we are. The king and the queen are together after he delivered them before the third book.
There's the key.
All right. So here we are. The picture of the king and the queen together, and then we see the third book, first chapter. The third book is about the Redeemer. So he's going to come back, and he's going to redeem everything. But he's got his bride already. Now there's another people group. He's got to redeem the earth. Yeah. So he says, okay, I want my bride. We'll take that, but I still have to redeem the earth. Now, who's ruling on the earth? Israel.
I was going to say that's Jews. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So the Jews. So now we're going to talk about his return. We're in the book of Revelation, if you would.
Okay.
And this is where he's going to come and redeem the earth, and come and rule on the earth, and then we're going to see how he protects Israel in there too. Oh, and we're almost out of time. We're going to run through this. Chapter 1: the Messiah is coming to judge all of the earth. We see Taurus, the bull. Okay, the Messiah is coming to rule. Orion is a light breaking forth. The light is breaking forth, and he is the Redeemer. Okay. Eridanus is a river of judgment that comes out. It's like a river of fire that comes out of the foot of Orion.
Okay.
So here he is. He's the Redeemer, and now his judgment has come. Think of it as the lake of fire, but it's a torrent. It's a flowing river at this point. Okay. And then, even with that, there's Ariga, which is the shepherd. So even through all of that judgment, he is protecting a group of people. All right, the shepherd, he's holding them, and it happens to be goats that he's holding.
So that would be Israel.
Yeah.
Okay.
And chapter 2 is the Messiah's reign as the Prince of Peace. People think Gemini, because that's the next constellation, is twins. It's not twins. It's a dual-natured, a dual reign, a unity of king and priest, basically.
Okay.
All right. And he is the king and the priest coming to rule and reign. And then we have Lepus, the hare, or some things have him as the serpent, but the idea is this Lepus is the enemy, and he's trodden down. Okay. And then we see, again, two different people groups here. We see Canis Major, which is the big dog, and then Canis Minor is the second dog.
Okay.
All right. So we see that. Now, I'll get into that later, but we're running out of time here. So let me finish up. Chapter 3 is the Messiah's redeemed possessions. And here where we have Cancer as the crab that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So now he's gathered all his people together so we can all rule and reign on the earth. We're with him as the bride, and he's gathering the people together. Now they're going to rule on the earth. That's Cancer.
Gotcha.
Okay. The crab, but it's basically a gathering place. And then we have Ursa Minor and Ursa Major, which they have today as the two bears. And then they say, oh, the Little Dipper. But in the ancient Hebrew, they were actually sheepfolds.
Okay.
If you look at them, they look like folds. One is pointing up towards the heaven, and one is pointing down towards the earth. Again, we have that same vision of a sheepfold looking up and a sheepfold looking down.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they're both circling around the North Pole, which is interesting. All right. And then we have Argo, the ship. Now, Argo is, people are saved and protected through this destruction because they're in the ship being protected. Gotcha. Same idea as Noah's Ark. So you're starting to see this whole book of Revelation play out in the stars. And then, good, we have enough time. We'll hit chapter 4, and then we can end out the show. So chapter 4 is the Messiah's consummated triumph, Leo the lion. So here we go, just like the Sphinx, the head of the woman all the way around to the body of a lion. It just tells you where to start looking. And then the pyramids are lined up in Orion's belt. So that's really interesting. Was it the enemies trying to mimic God and steal it? Or was it Joseph laying it out for posterity? I really got to look into that. I don't even know which direction that goes yet, but very interesting. So chapter 4, it starts with Leo the lion, and we all know who Leo the lion is, the lion of the tribe of Judah. We see Hydrant the serpent. Hydra the serpent is destroyed, and that's cool because it goes like a third of the space is this Hydra. All right, the third of the sky is covered with it. So when John takes, hey, I saw a third of the stars come down with him, that's what he's talking about. Not the actual 1/3 of the stars landing on Earth. That would be impossible. But he saw a third of the sky fall down with him. And that's Hydra the serpent is a third of the sky. We see Crater as a cup of divine wrath that's poured out. And Corvus the crow is a picture of the birds eating up all the flesh, like at the end of Revelation. Now we have the King of Kings, the lion, ruling and reigning for the next 1,000 years into the millennium. Wow. And that's just touching the ideas here.
I was fixing to say that's like bare minimum. I got the shortened version, as I told y'all before, but you can get the real deal. And David, tell them one more time where they can get that.
Well, I would recommend you get all the videos, and mine's included in there. And you can go to hearthewatchmen.com and just you click around on there, and you'll see. I might still say live. They might have taken it down and said get the videos. But you can order the videos, or if you can't find it, just email me at TheHiddenDay@protonmail.com. TheHiddenDay@protonmail.com, and we'll get you a copy of the videos if you want to get them. But I'll also send you the actual presentation where we use for all the slides that go and show all this information that we had in a little more detail than this. A lot more.
And it's really cool too, by the way, that presentation. I'm sure a lot of people out there are familiar with PowerPoint. Well, PowerPoint's like the elementary school version of the college degree version that David's got. I mean, it's awesome. It's a great presentation, and we do invite you guys to get it. Just like we invite you to join us this coming up Saturday, or not Saturday, at the end of the week show. Actually, this week's going to be a little bit different because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on a couple of interviews that I did from the Prophecy Conference itself. Those will air on Saturday, just like the Tuesday show was two different people. No. I'm all messed up. Anyway, we got interviews
people from the conference.
Interviews on Tuesday, interviews on Saturday, and then we'll be back to normal next week. Anyway, until then, everybody, good night, and God bless.
Thanks again for joining us today for the Last Christian Radio Show. And be sure to tune in every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday right here and at www.lastchristian.net. Until the trumpet sounds.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, could potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.